Welcome, everyone. There will be many more opportunities for that. I'm Elizabeth McGill, the Dean of Stanford Law School, and I have the honor of officially welcoming you all to this joyous day when we graduate the class of 2016. This year we graduate 252 students, 183 JD students, 55 LLM students, 11 JSM students, 1 MLS student, and 2, yes, count them, 2 JSD students getting their PhD. Let me first, and most importantly, welcome the family and loved ones of our graduates. We know that you have come from both near and far, including many of the 31 countries our advanced degree students call home. We're happy you're with us today, but more than that, we're grateful for all you have done to make these graduates who they are. We thank you for supporting them, and we thank you for sharing us with them. They're inspiring, they're funny, they're skilled, they're charming, they're memorable, they're talented, they're smart, and they're wise all at once. We've been privileged to teach them, and we are bursting with pride to call them our graduates. To the graduates, you know you didn't get here alone. Now is a good moment to stand and thank those in the audience who are here, and those who aren't here, to thank them for helping you who you are, to be who you are today, and for supporting you in your time at the law school. Let me end my welcome by saying to the graduates that I do hope you're feeling gratitude to others who've gotten you where you are. But I also hope you feel more than that. I hope you're feeling the pride that your family and your loved ones and that we feel about you. Basically, you rock. You have mastered very hard things. You have learned and advocated all over the world, from Afghanistan to Beijing to Santiago to Paris. You've learned to become a lawyer in big and splashy cases, as well as small but critically important ones. You've negotiated brilliantly against your peers. You've solved policy problems for clients. You've created organization, hosted events, conferences, speakers. You have thrown yourself into this community and to this university in ways that have forever changed us. So yes, feel gratitude, but please, feel pride as well. Welcome.
Dean McGill, distinguished faculty and staff, friends and family, graduating JDs, and fellow LLMs, SPILs, and JSDs. Welcome and good morning. It is my distinct pleasure and true honor to have the opportunity to address you all on behalf of the advanced degree students today. Class of 2016, holy smokes, we made it. Today we are officially graduates and alumni of Stanford Law School. Congratulations to us. Every one of us today here has traveled a remarkable journey to reach this moment. For the advanced degree students, this journey started 10 months ago, in which we in full excitement arrived at Stanford to meet our future colleagues and to be part of the Stanford student body. Little did we know that we would soon be spending one of the best years of our lives with some of the greatest minds in the country. We have throughout these months persevered, debated, learned, and soared, all alongside our fellow JD classmates. We have turned into comparative thinking lawyers who expressed our views, shared insights of our respective countries' legal systems, and vigorously got involved in class discussions, associations, and student journals. However, well, there goes. However, we owe this day not only to ourselves, but also to the ones who stood by us throughout this journey. Many of us have crossed land and sea, thousands of miles away from comfort and familiar faces, and yet we could always feel their presence. Thank you to our family and friends for your conditional support and your encouragement from across the world. We have been incredibly lucky to have you. The 2016 graduating class of advanced degree students consists of 67 individuals hailing from 31 countries with a total of 22 spoken languages. This is diversity per definition, which also shines through in our professional backgrounds. Among us, we have law clerks from the Supreme Court of Korea. We have also law clerks from the Court of Appeals of New Zealand. We have legislators from China. And we also have several former employees of United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank, as well as law firm associates, partners, and in-house counsels from some of the most prominent and successful companies and firms in the world. We are an ambitious group of individuals who courageously embarked on the Stanford journey and who can today proudly call ourselves Stanford Law School alumni. Stanford, thank you. We are incredibly lucky to have been part of this amazing school and its student body. Incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to meet and learn from the law faculty and all our JD classmates. And luck is actually a topic that I'm going to focus my speech on today, and more specifically the concept of luck. So I know it might sound a bit all too abstract for us lawyers to understand, but I'm sure you can identify with this theory. I am certain that upon announcing our admission as JDs or advanced degree students to Stanford Law School, all of our friends and family members overwhelmingly congratulated us and said, "You are so lucky." This has been a red thread throughout our time at Stanford. I recall my first week here at Autumn Quarter, where I took a class with a guest lecturer who would end every class session by saying, "You guys are so lucky, you're at Stanford, oh my God, you're lucky you got in." I was like, okay, well, and this continued as the weeks passed by, but with professors, lunch speakers, and students from other schools saying, "Oh my God, you're lucky to be at Stanford, you're so lucky." And I agree, we indeed truly are lucky to be at Stanford and to have had the opportunity to be attending Stanford Law School. But our admission and our accomplishments was never pure luck. So Chip Denman, a statistician and the co-founder of National Area Capital Skeptics, coined the term "luck is probability taken personally." We have all worked hard for our admission at Stanford. Some of us have planned our advanced degree studies for years, saving for our tuition fee, studying abroad, publishing articles, and making a name for ourselves. Luck probably played a small role in our admission decision, but we all know that in the end of the day, the probability of us being admitted was all dependent on the amount of hard work that we had put down. And hard work does not equal luck. It is no secret that we are all amazingly ambitious and hardworking individuals. And that is something that we should all remember as we go forward with our professional and private lives. To the LLMs and spills, I'm so proud and honored to be graduating with you today. Our common accomplishments, our extraordinary fun times that we've had while living on the farm, and the little bit of luck that actually brought us here, has now left us united and part of the Stanford family and part of the Advanced Degree Network, which covers all corners of the world. As we today end this chapter of our lives and leave Stanford, we must remember that it was never pure luck that brought us here, but our commitment to hard work and our mission to be our best selves. And these two factors are key components that we will carry with us while serving clients worldwide. Thank you, Stanford Law School, for this year. Thank you for the knowledge that you have given us. And thank you for the opportunity of a lifetime. We are forever grateful. Thank you.
My parents didn't know that I was giving this speech, so they look overwhelmed. Good afternoon. Last year, Dean Erwin Chemerinsky of UC Irvine came and gave a talk here, and he began his talk by telling us the story of a young woman named Carrie Buck. So I'm going to do the same. In 1906, it made it easy for me. In 1906, Carrie Buck was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. She was a typical young woman of average intelligence, but at the age of 16, Miss Buck became pregnant. She was unmarried, and only decades later would evidence reveal that her pregnancy was a result of her having been raped. Her foster parents had her committed to the Virginia Colony for the Epileptic and Feeble-Minded. The grounds for her commitment were feeble-mindedness, incorrigible behavior, and promiscuity. While she was committed, the colony's head physician performed forceful surgery on Carrie Buck to have her sterilized. This surgery was legal under the then recently enacted Virginia Eugenical Sterilization Act. After Carrie Buck's sterilization, her challenge to the act reached the Supreme Court, and there, in an 8-1 decision, the court upheld the Sterilization Act as constitutional. As part of the opinion of Buck v. Bell, which happened to be for a few of us the first opinion that we read in law school, Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes penned an avowal that will forever be enshrined in our case books. Many of us know it. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. It's taken nearly 90 years for scholars and researchers to begin to uncover the true details of Miss Buck's story and to begin the process of remolding her legacy. In the study of law, the individuals who are the legal system's participants, they become something less than flesh and blood human beings and something closer to mere case identifiers. Carrie Buck of Buck v. Bell, Fred Korematsu of Korematsu v. United States, Oliver Brown and the other plaintiffs of Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, Edie Windsor of United States versus Windsor. And this makes sense, and it's right, because that's how our legal system is organized, that's how it can continue to operate. An essential piece of our role is to extract the threads of the rules that those cases stand for, and then to knit those threads together into what we define the law to be. And that is how we advocate, and that is how we advocate effectively. But I would argue there's another piece to this role, that if extracting those threads is the mind, then this other piece is the heart of our role. And that is recognizing and honoring the human beings whose daily lives generate the opinions that we read, to act as stewards of their stories, and to recall the details that make them who they are. I began law school by delivering a speech, and I'm ending law school delivering a speech. The second of those speeches is obviously this one. The first of those speeches was a eulogy. It was a eulogy for my middle sister, Christine, who at the age of 23 died by suicide. It was about a week before classes began here. And I struggled in writing her eulogy to communicate to people who she really was. So I clung to the details. And many of us who lost loved ones know that that's sometimes one of the only things that you have, those details that feel like they make them real, that feel so irrelevant in life. And so in her eulogy, I talked about how when she was a kid, she loved Dalmatians, and how as an adult, she loved hiking in Yosemite and bike riding, how she was irreverently funny and unequivocally brilliant. I think, too, though, that I focused on those details because at some level, I wondered whether, as much as we loved her, Christine felt that the world didn't see her, that she felt that the world didn't know her, and that was part of the reason that she chose to leave it. And this was the lens through which I experienced law school. On the days when studying left us mired in papers and reading, I wondered, honestly, how one goes about practicing the law in a way that declines to reduce its players to the surnames of case titles. Because we have been asked, or forced, however we want to put it, to read, I would say forced, to read thousands of cases. It means that we carry, collectively and individually, one of the greatest aggregations of knowledge of the people whom the legal system has touched. And that is a powerful privilege. But because of the scale of that knowledge and the demands of our lives, because we're human beings too, it's a privilege that's difficult to wield. But this brings me to our class, to the class of 2016. Because what I saw when I entered law school, what I have been so genuinely struck by, is how frequently so many students here came to know those with whom they worked, not as names, but as people. Whether the matter involves structuring a deal with business leaders or helping to obtain someone's social security benefits for them. One of our classmates this year, as just a small example, represented a man who spent 6 years in jail, not after his trial, not during his trial, but awaiting trial for a crime that he didn't commit. And she came to know this person. And here are some things she came to know about him. His name is Charles. He used to work as a power washer. He loves to work. He has 5 kids. He's very spiritual. He's soft-spoken. Because of the advocacy that was provided to Charles, it won't take over 90 years to uncover who he was, because there's at least one person who chooses to know who he is. There will be thousands upon thousands of stories that are obviously, inevitably lost to history. But what little we can do is have the grace and the presence of mind to make each person we encounter now, today, feel more human. And what this means in practice, and it isn't always possible, but it will be sometimes, is to use our power to demonstrate to others that we will ask who they are and what they love and who they love, and we will remember their details, and we will make at least one of their memories our own, and we will hold it and we will carry it forward so that the law can be more than just a cloth we weave out of the rules that we read, but rather something more like a cloak, something with heft, something protective, something humanizing. Because that's the heart of our job. Assuring others that the world sees them. Assuring others that the world knows them. Thank you.
Thanks, Court. There was a reason we chose you for our class speaker. That was amazing. I'm Dana,
And I'm Haley.
and we're the co-class presidents, uncontested election, so.
Next, I'll be presenting the 2016 Dean's Award for Excellence in Service to Stanford Law School. I first got to know this individual during our time serving as co-presidents of Stanford Law Association, the law school student government. Immediately, it was apparent to me of his uncanny ability to foster community within our class, as best demonstrated by his creation of the jury box, a lounge space specifically dedicated to students. Moreover, he spent endless time nurturing the public interest in criminal law communities, pushing students beyond the classroom and into the community at large. Through his work in the prosecution clinic, 3 Strikes program, and countless other organizations, he prioritized pro bono work and even got one of his clients, who was serving life, out of prison. Although I've only known him for 3 out of his 7 years here at Stanford, I can undoubtedly say he has made an indelible impact on Stanford, his classmates, and the Bay Area community. Without further ado, I am proud to present the 2016 Dean's Award for Excellence in Service to Stanford Law School to Marcus Burrisaw.
It is an incredibly humbling honor to get any sort of recognition among so many people who have inspired me over the last 3 years. I wanted to use this opportunity to talk for a moment about someone who I admire, who, although dedicating her life to public service, never earned this sort of recognition. Like so many millions of public servants, she worked in whatever way she could to support those around her without any expectation of status or accolade. My mother, Tina Burrisaw, taught me what it means to give to those around you. And I'll give one example. When I was an undergrad here at Stanford, the first 4 years, my mother was approaching 60 years old. She was unemployed. She worked between a hostess job at Denny's and cleaning hotel rooms. And she had very little. But she still found space in her life to support those who she knew needed help. Literal space, sometimes. On one occasion, she welcomed a homeless stranger into her home, into the spare room. My room. This man was someone who we would ordinarily probably fear. He was a stranger to her. He was finishing a 2-year prison sentence for a crime I never knew. And he had no place else to go. And my mother, with so little, found a space for him. He stayed in her home for 3 months while he got his feet back underneath him. And I didn't learn about it until about 6 months later. And at the time, I thought maybe my mother thought I'd be mad that she'd given away my bedroom. But I think in retrospect, what really was happening was my mother was showing me through her example that was an everyday kindness, not noteworthy, not worthy of anyone paying attention to, not worthy of any sort of recognition, because we should make a habit of service to those in need. I want to thank her for the example she set to me in her life. I want to thank you all for this incredible recognition. I know that my service to Stanford Law School pales in comparison to the work of so many others. I want to thank my wife, Angela Burrisaw, as we prepare to welcome our own first child into the world this fall. I hope that he will have examples in his life like I've had in mine. However we came here, we are all leaving here exceptionally well-trained, exceptionally skilled, exceptionally well-connected and powerful. And I hope that we use that privilege to fearlessly welcome others into our lives and support them. Thank you.
The next award we're going to present is the Staff Appreciation Award. This award goes to someone who has played an integral role in the lives of graduating students. I think I can speak for our whole class when I say that no one has formed more genuine relationships with students than Sheila has. She remembers our birthdays, supports us during exams, and shows a true interest in our day-to-day lives. Only last week, my friend and I went in early to grab a coffee and see Sheila before our last exam at Stanford. And when she wasn't at the law school cafe, we both had a brief moment of panic, only to calm down when we ran into her in Crocker Garden on our way into our exam, demonstrating the real effect of Sheila's presence. SLS wouldn't be #BlessLS without Sheila. For many of us, Sheila is not only a member of the staff at Stanford, but a friend. And I could not be more honored to present the Staff Appreciation Award to Sheila Sidron.
Thank you so much. This is really an honor. Oh my God, nobody told me that. Okay. I really love you guys. Thank you, and all the best for you, okay? Thank you.
Next, we are pleased to present the 2016 John Bingham Hurlburt Award for Excellence in Teaching to someone who makes teaching an art, Professor Sinar, Assistant Professor of Law, and John A. Wilson, Distinguished Faculty Scholar.
While neither Haley nor I have had the pleasure of having Professor Sinar, her students say that Professor Sinar is not only thoughtful about her teaching and research, but about her students as well.
As a teacher, she was always prepared, balanced, and well-informed.
She makes her students feel heard and appreciated in the classroom, even if what they're saying is not technically correct.
We are lucky to have such a wonderful professor on our staff. And Dana and I will be back for some of that chocolate during office hours next year.
Please help us in congratulating Professor Sinar.
Good morning. Thank you, Haley and Dana, for that kind introduction. The privilege of addressing you today as a recipient of the Hurlburt Award is truly the greatest honor of my professional life. For your faith in entrusting me with this charge, I am moved and gratified. I feel a special bond with the class of 2016. When you walked into your first civil procedure class on Monday, September 9th, 2013, I stepped to the podium to teach my first civil procedure class. In those early days, you might have wondered how you'd respond when a professor first asked you a question in front of 60 of your peers. I too wondered how I'd respond when you first asked your incredible questions. Whether or not I had you as students that fall, I shared the excitement and uncertainty that marked the beginning of this new stage of your lives. Since that fall, I've had the honor of getting to know many of you. Together, we learned new languages, demystifying the statutory carve-outs to supplemental jurisdiction, and unraveling the mysteries of non-mutual offensive collateral estoppel. Together, we explored hard questions, like asking how public institutions could protect liberty and equality in the face of political demands for total security. As much as I enjoyed these rich conversations about the law and ideas, what I really relished were the unguarded moments where facades dropped and your real selves emerged, where you shared your stories. In those refreshing escapes from the relentlessly analytic, I had the privilege of glimpsing the whole people that you are. You told me how your grandfather's struggles to keep the family farm motivated you to come to law school. You told me how experiences working in intelligence agencies shaped your thinking on the difficult choices societies make. You told me how legal doctrine sometimes seemed a world apart from your experience of living in public housing or growing up in struggling immigrant communities. You told me how law school was sometimes exhilarating, but sometimes painful, and how the places from which you came influenced your sense of place in the rarefied world of Stanford Law School. You shared these stories amid extraordinary soul-searching in our nation about the role of law. As the bodies of brown and black men and women fell at the hands of the state in cities across America, many of us questioned the legal system that seemed to sanction it. I learned from the painful questions you asked as you organized die-ins and vigils to honor the victims and envision a different future. Likewise, this past year, as presidential candidates stoked fear and xenophobia, the likes of which we have not seen in generations, we asked together whether law could resist the escalating drumbeat of exclusionary calls when so often in our history it has failed to do so. Together, over the past 3 years, we questioned the chasm between law and justice and explored the means to narrow that gap. It's been a remarkable 3 years. As I thought about my conversations with so many of you over the years, I decided that the most important message I could leave you with was more personal than political. That message is ultimately simple: to take the time to know yourself, to align your vision, to align your life with your vision and values, and to care for yourself even as you tend to the needs of others. The message is simple, but living it might require unlearning some lessons from law school or your prior academic and professional lives. No one gets to Stanford Law School or to graduation without working hard, exceptionally hard. For many of you, you have climbed the ladder as long as you can remember, one step to the next, one achievement to the next, ever higher. Good grades in high school, good grades in college, success in your jobs, and onwards, up the ladder. You learn early in law school what you're supposed to strive for and what it takes to get there. Honors grades and book prizes, law review and clerkships, fellowships and leadership titles, associate positions in the partner track, maybe ultimately a U.S. attorney position, or appointment as a federal judge, or tenure at a leading law school. And there's some truth to the idea that taking such steps may help you realize some worthy goals, to support your family, to find intellectually stimulating work, or to acquire the influence to shape society in the way you think is just. Those are all worthy reasons for seeking prizes and positions, for making the climb. In fact, sometimes we decline to seek opportunities for the wrong reasons. Some of us suffer from imposter syndrome, that common tendency to doubt one's abilities and question one's place in some elite institution. As a woman of color, I have been there, occasionally failing to take certain steps because I deemed myself unworthy. So my message today is not to reject the ladder out of hand, but to ask yourself and decide for yourself why you're climbing. We often say we climb the ladder to help us achieve some vision of our lives. But often, when climbing becomes habitual, the ladder replaces the vision. When that happens, we no longer know why we are climbing. We just know that someone else from our class has climbed higher, faster, and we think less of ourselves for not getting there. When we get there, of course, it brings only fleeting satisfaction because there's always a higher rung and someone who is already there. So now is the time to ask, are you defining the ladder you seek to climb, or is the ladder defining you? What is your vision for the life you want to lead? For most people, a vision is not something you determine once and then pursue for a lifetime. Rather, it is something you assess and reassess at every stage of your life. My own vision, for instance, has changed more than once, sometimes in response to external circumstances, and sometimes in response to a change in myself. I entered law school in the fall of 2000, intending to pursue international human rights work, including the empowerment of women in Muslim societies. As a child of Muslim immigrants from India who came here 45 years ago, I had mostly lived the American dream at home while seeing incredible inequality and suffering abroad. But on September 11th, 2001, days after I transferred to Stanford Law School, my world turned upside down. Before we could even grieve the lives lost on that terrifying day, my community as a whole became suspect, our loyalty questioned at every juncture. Within months, thousands of South Asian and Middle Eastern immigrants and citizens had been detained around the country or subject to vicious assaults because they were perceived to be Muslim. As our nation united against an enemy that looked like me, my vision turned from the world abroad to my community at home. There were few lawyers in the American Muslim community at the time, and as a second-year law student, I began receiving calls for help. There was a woman whose Jordanian immigrant husband had simply disappeared. She feared he had been swept up in the mass arrests. There were the Pakistani men detained in San Francisco simply for stopping their car near the Bay Bridge. For months, I fielded such calls, connecting individuals to civil rights advocates, organizing Know Your Rights workshops for local communities, and learning from Japanese Americans who reached out in solidarity across the span of history. After I graduated from Stanford, I had a sense of purpose that I could not have imagined when I started law school, protecting my community's increasingly fragile sense of belonging in a country that increasingly feared us. For 5 years at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and the Asian Law Caucus in San Francisco, I advocated on behalf of those facing profiling and discrimination. Clients removed from airline flights simply because their mere presence made others uncomfortable. civic leaders interrogated at U.S. borders about their political and religious beliefs, low-wage airport security screeners who lost their jobs to discrimination. At the same time, civil rights work opened my eyes to the struggle of communities that I had barely appreciated before, including undocumented immigrants, low-wage workers, and those trapped in the criminal justice system. The work was tremendously meaningful, but also dispiriting. Time and time again, I had to tell my clients that despite their suffering, the law did not protect them. Eventually, after 5 years of civil rights lawyering, I changed course, seeking a different way to contribute to my vision and the ways it had evolved over time. My journey eventually brought me to academia. There, I encountered a separate ladder, the academic tenure track, with its own ranks and rungs. For junior faculty, the climb is sometimes grueling. But I've come to realize that when I keep my vision and values at the center of what I do, I worry far less about the climb because I'm no longer absorbed by some extrinsic goal at the height of the ladder. Instead, I'm simply pursuing the things that matter to me, teaching and writing in the pursuit of justice, mentoring the next generation, and raising 2 lovely daughters of my own. So I return to my message for you. Too often, we are taught to climb some mythical single ladder of academic and professional success. Too often, we absorb the message that we should judge ourselves against the accomplishments of others. If life or law school has taught you such lessons, unlearn them now. Make the space to know yourself and to align your life to your core vision and values. You each have something extraordinary to contribute. Find out what it is and pursue it with a passion. Lastly, as you pursue that vision, take care of yourself. No vision is worth pursuing that sacrifices your well-being to your work, no matter how noble the cause. If you believe in honoring the dignity of each individual, you must begin by honoring yourself. That means carving out the time to care for yourself. It means nurturing the relationships that sustain you. It means forgiving yourself even when you fall short of your own high expectations. I know you to be a class of caring, compassionate individuals. You each deserve the care and compassion that you so readily extend to others. So with that, I leave you on this gorgeous California day. Celebrate the years of hard work and accomplishment that brought you to this point. Embrace the full world of possibilities that lies ahead. And as you revel in the joy of this day with those you love, promise yourselves that you will always nourish that love and joy within yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sinar. And now, the moment that many of you have been waiting for, I have the honor of introducing the candidates for the degrees. We're going to start a degree at a time, and first, for the degree of Doctor of Science of Law. Fernán Restrepo Cardona. and the candidates for the degree of Master of the Science of Law. Eduardo Andrés Alcaino. Aurelio Jurea Martinez. Zhuo Cheng Hao. Masaki Iwasaka. Damira Katam. Tiago Nascimento dos Reis. Alberto Nieto Tibaquira. Franz Erwin Oberosbacher Davila. Nidia Rimolina Leon. Yu Min Wan. Qingtao Zhe. And now for the degrees of Master of Law in Corporate Governance and Practice. Gunish Akman Osjam. Iakovos Anagnostopoulos. Yekaterina Boyko. Naure Cho. Alejandra Corrales. Shunpei Goke. Yulia Goktarenko. Haesong Jiang. Aiko Kobayashi. Mariana Bagayans Chapé. Sergio Manuel Martins Torres Filho. Ashwarya Nair. Emi Otsuka. Paul Olavi Rade. Catalina Reyes Cancino. Fabio Weinberg Croco. Nan Yang. Andari Zaina. Oh, thanks. And for Master of Laws in Environmental Law and Policy, I present Eduardo Alvarez Armas. Tali Avigdori. Maria Monica Borda Olarte. Ricardo Brandão Silva. Javier Eduardo Carrasco. Sarah Margaret Keys Hoffman. One Jean Kim and partner. Kohei Kubo and partner. Ina Bianca Kimosing. Pratishta Singh. Davi Dhananjayan Supramanian. Pamela Usta Yabrudi. Anastasia Warroca. Sylvia Maria Yes. My mistake. And to introduce the candidates for the Master of Laws, Environmental Law, Law, Science, and Technology, I introduce Sylvia Maria Cavalot. Teresa Sid Blasco. Erica Douglas. Matteo Dragoni. Delia Irene Fur Bosshard. Su Min Huang. Amit Etai. Anna Jaffe. Yudi Gangs. Yoko Kasai. Kang Kwan. Jungwon Justin Meng. Nina Marot. Masakume Masuda. Shola Patterson Mark. Kimya Shams. Pedro Brandão e Souza. Sahil Yadav. Hao Yan. Wei Li Zhong. Li Zhu. Melissa Zupan. And my tutor in Portuguese names, Carolina Cardoso Ramayao. And now this is a big group, so you might want to take a breath. The candidates for the degree of Doctor of Jurisprudence. Philip Theodore Arredondo. Yvonne Au. Brendan Ballou. James David Banker. Abigail Perry Barnes. Marnie Farrell Barta. Matthew Benedetto. Bethany Debbie Bangfort. Thomas Arthur Berry. Jennifer Marie Bigger. Micah Ian Blooming. David Walden Beaubier. Samuel John Bonnet. Marcus Sean Bourassa. Adam Garrett Bowling. Sergio Antonio Broholm. Victoria Jacqueline Buchholz. Charles Edward Bucher. Thomas James Bewley. Carson E. Busby. Samuel Horton Biker. William Edward Cage. Nicole M. Cambero. Valerie A. Campbell. Kyle Justin Cantola. Charles L. Cow. Joseph Patrick Catapano. Claire Lockerbie Chapla. Anand Chabra. Grace Anders Kukla. Robert W. Curran. John Daly. Taylor James Davidson. Carolina de Armas. Christopher Allen Dietz. Carlo Dizon. Andrew Dragstrom. John Dominic Durdek. Nicole Adamson Duda. Eric Dunn. Gregory Aaron Ellenson. Nari Ely. Pinar Argiash Bailey. Sarah Luz Estella. William Evans. Connor Richard Foy. Jason Fishbein. Akiva Hebel Friedland. Cindy Marie Garcia. Marta Garcia. Caitlin Aaron Gardner. Jeffrey Sarah Goldenhirsch. Shireen Griffith. Andrew Benedict Grin. Gagan Gupta. Virginia Halden. Tillman. Ziggy Hendricks. Tiffany May Ho. Cara Hollis. Haley Anna Horton. Jessica Ann Hudak. Keel B. Ireland. Lindsay Cecilia Jackson. Eric Semino Johnson. Brittany Marie Jones. Elizabeth A. Jones. Nicholas S. Jones. Christopher M. Juarez. Grady Young. Andrew C. Cambick. Daniel Joseph Bjorn Kane. Deepa Kunapan. Ted Kark. Caroline Joan Keller-Lynn. John Bernard Kenny. Courtney Cottaby. Cassandra Kildow. Hyoseng Mark Kim. Emma Miller Kleiner. Philip Alexander Klimka. Grace Haley Koba. Faye Kruer. Heather Kriska. Peter Alec Kurtz. Jeffrey Michael Lash. Madeline Claire Loppheimer. Austin Lewis Lee. Nikki Leon. Jeannie Rose Leader. Kristen A. Liska. Saracena Littleburn. Donna Tang Long. Deandra Rose Mann. Holly Christine Mariella. Tiffany T. Mason. Vincent J. Mazurko. John Patrick McElroy. Ryan Matthew McElroy. Madeline F. McKenna. Christopher Carter McClam. Malia Joy McPherson. Nicholas Stephen Medling. Blake Simmons Meyer. Isaac James Middleton. Elizabeth Ann Miller. John Edine Moqtader. Enrique J. Molina. Jonathan A. Mondell. Clifford D. Impari. Jordan Francis Murray. Jenna Rose Newscheller. Min Nguyen Dang. Timothy P. Nicholson. Errol H. Norman. Erin Olivia Wright. Hiram T. Olson. Jennifer J. Oxley. Angela E. Park. Caroline Park. KJ Peterson. Maya Perlman. Alexandra Kathleen Perino. Brian Andrew Pike. Serena Premji. Joseph Michael Polano. Michael F. Chen. Ryan Patrick Quinn. Neil Kamal Raina. David Ramirez Galvez. Dana Rehnquist. Daniel Donovan Rentz. Nicole Yvonne Roberts. Ashley E. Robertson. Shelby Brianne Robertson. Henry M. Robinson. Michael P. Ronca. Nicholas Robert Rossellini. Amanda Joy Rubin. Michael Paul Rubin. Alon Sakar. David Unkas Sayed. Julia Shelzo. Lauren Lee Schneider. Dory Schrentz. Andrew Paul Schupunitz. Matthew Scorcho. Nicole Melissa Scott. Vina Selam. Sari Regina Sharoni. Michael Allen Scotchpole. Paulina K. Slater. Riley K. Summers Flanagan. Nicholas Ryan Sparks. Charles F. Sprague. Stephen James Spriggs. Nicholas John Standish. Rose C. Stanley. Aaron M. Stanton. Jacqueline Tandler. Matthew John Tanabalan. Maggie Thompson. James Threet. Trent Allen Timmons. Michael H. Todisco. Naomi Aisha Tong. Scott Raymond Toussaint. Alexandria R. Twynham. Swain Nelson Uber. Laura Antonia Vitae Adamson. Eric Song Wang. Matthias Holger Weinhardt. Brian Michael Weisenberg. Ashley Marie Williams. Hold on. Lila Severance Hume Wolf. Chadin Wu. Christine Yoon. Emmy Young. Kimberly Hope Larkin. Join me in congratulating all of the graduates.
Well, my congratulations to all of you, but also to Jeannie Marino, who as acting Dean of Students has had, for her short period of time, done the toughest job of the Dean of Students, which is to properly pronounce all of your names. So my job now is to charge the class of 2016, to give our graduating students one last message before we send them on their way. Before I do that, though, let me repeat what I said at the very start of this joyous event. To the family and friends who made our graduates who they are, thank you for sharing them, and thank you for supporting them. We've been privileged to teach them. We're proud to call them Stanford graduates, and we can't wait to see what they do in their lives. To the class of 2016, this is the fourth time I've had the chance to charge a graduating class. As graduation approaches, I try to settle on something that is not a Hallmark tagline. You know, be yourself. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Be humble, be audacious, be grateful. Here in the heart of Silicon Valley, we have our own well-worn Hallmark-like phrases. Fail fast. Be entrepreneurial. Change the world by becoming a venture capitalist. In an effort not to do the Hallmark thing, I've gone each year for somewhat darker themes. I talked to the class of 2013 about the promise of law and legal training, but also, maybe more importantly, its limits. To the class of 2014, I argued in favor of selfishness. Well, not quite. I argued that, like a professional athlete or concert musician, you had to attend to yourself if you were to achieve what you hoped. To the class of 2015, I talked about what to do if your faith is shaken. Your faith in your profession or your community or your country or your world. So I've been thinking over these last couple of months about today's charge, and one powerful thought has repeatedly come to the front of my mind. It's what Polonius says in Act 2 of Hamlet, and it's this: brevity is the soul of wit. Point taken. So at the risk of going slightly in the Hallmark direction, the theme that came to me this year is about creating and sustaining strong communities. My question is, what makes a community where all of its members thrive? This theme has come to me because I think there are some lessons from what you have done in your time at Stanford. So to get technical about it, my charge will be, wherever you land, it's your obligation to help create a strong community where all can thrive. My hunch that community was a good theme for this class was reaffirmed in the last month, because in the last month or so, I've asked dozens of members of the class of 2016 3 questions about your time at Stanford. I asked you, what are your best memories of your time here? How have you changed since you got here? And what words would you use to describe this place? It's the answers to the third question that reaffirmed my thought that this was a good theme. When asked what word you would use to describe Stanford, these are the 4 most common words you used: community, supportive, tight-knit, and cooperative. The other common words were kind, decent, familial, generous, warm, optimistic, freeing, empowering, and inspiring. Supportive, tight-knit, and cooperative? That really doesn't sound like a law school. The proper law school words are competitive, challenging, inhumane. Your words sound like the description of a summer camp or a band trip to Hawaii. or the perfect family. But law school? Not really. It's not an easy ride, and all of you know it. Alongside these words, you told me much more about your Stanford experience. You said it pushed you to the point of breaking. You said it made you more aware of problems in the world. It made you more open-minded. It made you a better listener. It made you a more rigorous thinker. It made you more humble. It transformed you. It gave you a calling. Now, many of these things are great things. Who doesn't want a calling? But none of them are easy rides. No, this has definitely not been summer camp. So how is it possible to combine push to the point of breaking with words like supportive and cooperative, or more amazingly, optimistic, empowering, and inspiring? If we figure that out, I think we'll know a lot about how to create and sustain a community where all can thrive. So my own theories about this come from our experiences together at Stanford. There are 3 features that I think have made for a strong community, that have connected us to one another and you to each other, that might serve as a model for you as you leave. The first one is illustrated by the memory that so many of our JD students in the class of 2016 said will long stay with them. Here's the scene. You've just finished your last final of the fall 1L year. You pack up your books. You try not to make eye contact with your neighbor because you do not want to have a conversation about question 2 because you know you got something wrong. You're exhausted. Sure, you're happy you made it through, but you can't fully shake the difficulties of the challenging fall. But then, you hear a low rumble outside. You leave the classroom building to find the pathway lined with hundreds of shouting, cheering, whooping students who really don't know you. Why did so many of you identify this memory as both important and telling about your experience here? To me, what's the key is that the upperclassmen are doing something they are not required to do for a group of people they don't really know that well. For nearly all of the people who line the exit from the classroom building and cheer you on, they are doing something that is just not in their job description. Going outside the job description in this way is something that's pretty common here. You gave many examples in your responses. There are other events, public events, like that Fall 1L celebration, most obviously the musical. Definitely not in the job description in so many ways. I did. I always agree with Dana Rehnquist. But there are much less high-profile examples as well. There are the 20 students who went to see a friend argue an appeal in San Jose. There's the time students spent hours to make a video to thank their clinical professor. There are the nationally themed dinners thrown by our advanced degree students from Brazil, from Spain, from Korea, and many other countries. There's the large crowd of people who went to see a play brought to campus by a passionate classmate. There's the Rite of Spring last May, organized by Barbara Freed and Tommy Berry. The masters of unceremoniousness, as they put it. There's laser tag with Mark Lemley. I mention that mostly so I can hear more about it later. And then there's Marcus. Okay, I know that he was SLA co-president, and part of his actual job description during his term was to build community. But this week's talent show? The scavenger hunt? The unusual commitment to the jury box? I don't think any of these things were in his job description. Here I've focused mostly on students, but I could spend several paragraphs talking about faculty and staff who go beyond what's in their job description to make this the place it is. Aside, that is, from the laser tag thing, which I really do want to hear about. Going beyond the job description is a good in itself, but there's something else important about it. It perpetuates the culture. When you arrived here, whether it was last fall or in the fall of 2013, and when I arrived here in the fall of 2012, we looked around. And what did we see? We saw lots of people pitching in ways that they didn't have to in order to create something that felt warm and generous and supportive. And we figured that was normal, so we did it too. A community where all can thrive, though, isn't only about celebrations, rites of spring, and the jury box. Communities built only around these things have problems, not the least of which is they can leave people out. That culture can be oppressively joyful. Separately, the community has to feel open to everyone. That means several things. It means a welcoming of difference and a capacity for critical self-reflection and change. When I asked you how Stanford had changed you, several of you said the same thing. Before Stanford, you said there was little space between your views and the views of your closest friends. Your time at Stanford, you said, had made you more open to and respectful of views with which you didn't agree. One does hope this happens as a natural part of the law school experience. Law and legal systems, after all, mean at bottom a commitment to reason rather than force to resolve disputes. Legal training then is intended to force you to see and appreciate questions from all sides and to grapple with arguments you might have previously dismissed. But I think there's been something more specific for the class of 2016. Your time in law school has been a hard time to study law. You all came to law school with great enthusiasm about the promise of law and legal systems. But for some of you, that faith has been shaken deeply in these last few years, and especially by the role that racial prejudice and collective indifference play in the lives of so many people of color and in the criminal justice system. So what have you done? You stepped up. Members of this class helped lead the die-in last December, the My Life Matters vigil last February. Your questions, your concerns led to reading groups, classes, practicums, panel discussions, and much more. All places where you learned and you dug deep on issues of inequality. These events have undoubtedly led to many more conversations about issues of race, justice, and inequality that we face as a society, and no doubt have made people see things they hadn't seen before. That is to say, this class has helped us engage in critical self-reflection. You have changed us, and you have changed each other. The work of your class is a living example of what it means to aspire to a truly open community, one that critically reflects on what it's doing and is open to change. Take that lesson with you. There's one last lesson about building strong community that I take from your own reflections about your experience. Something that came through loud and clear in my exchanges with you. And it's what I think makes people reach for words like inspiring and decent and empowering when they describe this place. That is having many members of the community engaging in service to others who need it most. This kind of service was a dominant theme in most responses to questions about your memory at Stanford or the way Stanford had changed you. You wrote of winning your first motion for a client and seeing the elated expression on her face. You wrote of getting a picture of your 3 Strikes client as he sat in a fast food restaurant just after his release. You wrote of the moment when it was obvious that your mentally ill client trusted you when he turned to you and your partner for advice. You wrote how powerful it was when your client in your refugee pro bono conveyed that you had restored his hope in the future. You wrote of your joy in knowing that you could be in the corner for your clients who needed you. You wrote of your clinic classmate getting a call from the prosecutor after the first day of trial, and the prosecutor explaining that he was dropping the charges against the clinic's client, your classmate putting down the phone, and the entire team jumping up and down with victory. Several of you wrote that you had found your calling when you realized that you now had the tools to represent people in need. The thing is, even those of you who didn't have that experience directly commented on the joy and pleasure that you took in your classmates' service to others and in their victories. Nearly everyone mentioned the inspiration you found in your classmates and their passions and the work that they did. I agree. So I think there's a third leg in this stool of a strong community. It's one where its members engage in service and all others celebrate and are inspired by it. I told all of you when you arrived, either last fall or in 2013, that one of the most important things we do at the law school is admit and recruit students. We spend a lot of time thinking about how to do that right. We don't do that because we care about how you make us look on paper, but you do make us look good on paper. We do that because we're certain that you, as people, not as a collection of scores and activities, are going to change us while you're here, and that you're going to teach us something. What I think you've taught us is how to build a strong community. You've helped us find a formula that creates community that allows members to thrive. Members that go beyond the job description to create warm and supportive community. That members of the community feel free to engage in critical self-reflection and prompt change. And many who are devoted to service and to all who celebrate and are proud of that service. So let me get back to my job here. My charge to you is to take the lessons from this place and translate them wherever you land. In some places, you're going to find thriving schools, communities, and workplaces. And you'll have to help sustain them. In other places, you're going to find something much more challenging. Broken communities. It is a big lift to make changes in such a situation because so little of what we've experienced together and what I've talked about is embodied in rules or structures that could be changed by committee. Instead, it's in norms and attitudes and the way people interact with one another one-on-one, even when they're challenged and when they're under stress. So much of it is about modeling action that others learn from. But class of 2016, you rock and you can do it. We, the faculty and staff at Stanford Law, cannot wait to see how it goes.